Good morning and welcome back to an all-new episode of the Midweek Mini. Y'all, the mountains have been calling my name, so the first weekend in March, the kids and I are headed to Maggie Valley. Now, my mom is possibly going with us too, but I have a feeling at the very last minute she's going to cancel like she did the last time, but we'll see. But anyway, since we went in October, I've been ready to just go straight back. But anyway, we was thinking about that Saturday morning riding over to Cades Cove from Maggie Valley, and that's like about 78 miles, give or take, and that's a little bit of a ride, but I hate to be that close and not go. And my kids and mom have never been there, so I'm anxious and excited to show it to them so they can see all of the beauty and wildlife and whatnot that it offers. So just hope the weather is going to be pretty that weekend. Well, let's get on to today's episode. Today we're going to be talking about a disaster that took place in 1979 in the UK. So stick around.
Triple Studios proudly presents the Midweek Mini, and here's your host, Andrea Lee.
Now, before we really get started into this episode, I just do want to give my youngest baby a big birthday shout out today. He's 13 years old today, y'all, and it seems like he was just born, and he was my little tiny 6-pound baby. But now he's a big old 13-year-old. He's taller than me, which ain't saying that whole lot, but I believe he's going to be taller than his brother too, and Alex is pretty tall, so we'll see. But anyway, let's got choked up talking about my baby. But anyway, let's get on with today's episode. On May 8th, 1979, around 1:30 p.m. local time, 999 calls started coming in at talking about the Woolworth building in Manchester was on fire. The first call came from a taxi company dispatcher, and she told the 999 operator that one of the taxi drivers had seen smoke coming out of the building. Well, soon 11 more calls came in and fire crews were dispatched. When the crews arrived, smoke, and a lot of it, was billowing out of the store. The building itself was 6 stories tall, and many of the people that were trapped in the building were at the windows begging to be rescued. At the time that fire crews arrived, it was believed that somewhere around 500 people, both customers and employees, were in the building. It took firefighters 2.5 hours to bring the fire under control, all the while pulling people from windows, doors, and off the roof. Just before 4 p.m. that afternoon, firefighters declared the fire contained, and then a thorough search of the large building was underway. After surveying the damage and searching for victims, 10 people had been found that had lost their lives, and another 47 were taken to hospitals for their injuries that varied in severity. The scene outside of the building was quite chaotic too. One woman actually ran past firefighters with her scarf that she was wearing. It was on fire, like it was lit up, and I guess maybe she was so panicked that she didn't realize that, or maybe that's what caused it and she just didn't think to try to get it off. I'm not sure. But at that time, the fire was the city's worst fire since World War II. So why was this fire so deadly? The fire was started when a damaged electrical cord came into contact with furniture made out of polyurethane, causing thick toxic smoke. Not only did people have a hard time breathing, but they couldn't see the exits to evacuate the store. The majority of those who died were on the second floor in the store's restaurant, and the smoke seemed to be the thickest there. The store had no sprinkler system installed either, so it was only when firefighters arrived that the fire could be extinguished. And I guess maybe back then I mean, it was 1979. It wasn't a safety standard to have sprinkler systems in public places. And it wouldn't be until 9 years later that something was done to try and prevent those situations from happening again. The Furniture and Furnishings fire safety regulations were enacted, and it forced furniture makers to use safer materials to be used for the covers and fill-ins of furniture. And remember that I said that people were at windows begging to be rescued? I guess you may have thought, why didn't they just try to get out of the windows themselves? Well, it wasn't because it was so high up. I mean, they were high up, but the biggest thing that was there stopping them was these iron bars on those windows so they couldn't get out to safety. Even when firefighters arrived and tried with axes and crowbars, they couldn't free the people at the windows. They had to wait for somebody with special equipment to arrive to cut those bars. And just imagine how much time that took. And I bet those poor people was panicking as the minutes went by while they're waiting to be rescued. I can't even imagine. Now, I also found in my research for this episode that a lot of people didn't take the warnings that the store was on fire seriously because they simply just didn't see the smoke. They just kept eating their lunch like nothing was happening. And when people finally did see the smoke and tried to escape, many of them ran to an exit that was nearby that they found to be locked. And those doors had been locked in an effort to stop shoplifting. And while that's a big problem for stores, I know, it cost people their lives. Some of these people fled to the roof of that building when they couldn't get out the doors or windows. And more than 40 people were crowded on the roof. And they were on the roof's edge. And firefighters could only take 6 people down at a time because of weight limits on the hydraulic lift system that they were using. Well, that caused people to panic. And because people were so sure they wouldn't be rescued in time, even though there was no smoke or sign of fire showing on the roof, a lot of them ran back into the burning store. Now, out of those that originally had been on the roof, only 13 were rescued from up there because the rest had gone back into the building. And I'm sure fear of the firefighters not having enough time to rescue them all played a big part in that, but who knows what we'd actually do in that same situation. Now, it's believed that temperatures reached 1,292 degrees Fahrenheit in the building that day. The ages of those who perished because of the fire ranged from 29 to 86 years old. All of those except for one had been customers, and that one employee who died trying to save customers. What a horrible way to die. And that's always been a fear of mine. Now, it's been just over 40 years since this disaster, but a lot of the people who were there as customers, employees, or firefighters remember it like it was yesterday, and they're haunted by the memories of it, and I'm pretty sure I would be too. And this story makes me think of a story similar to this one that affected my family personally when my cousin, who was a firefighter, was killed fighting a department store fire. And get this, it happened in May of 1979, the same month and the same year as the Woolworth fire. But that's the story I'll save for next week's Midweek Mini. On a happier note, though, I'd like to give a big shout out to you guys who listen. When I was looking at the locations of where you guys are at, I was blown away by how far and wide my voice reaches. Not only do we have listeners all over the United States, but I'm seeing listens from, and downloads too, y'all, from the UK, India, the Netherlands, Australia, Ireland, Canada, countries in Africa. I mean, y'all, my big mouth is being heard everywhere, and I'm so grateful for that. I wish nothing but good things for each and every one of you. Now, you guys have a great day and the rest of your week, and come back on Friday night for a What the Friday.